And thus it became law when the governor of California signed a bill that will grant government health care benefits to illegal immigrants. This story from Fox News. California becomes first state to give taxpayer-funded health benefits to illegal immigrants. Now, this story is actually kind of old, except the new information is that the governor has actually signed it. It was passed in the state, and a lot of people were wondering if it would actually get signed into law. The reason being, San Francisco has a human waste problem where homeless and mentally unwell people are just, kind of defecating in the street. It's such a serious problem, the city has to hire what they call a poop patrol. Then you have Los Angeles with a homeless problem so bad, there are concerns that bubonic plague will actually come back. They've had a typhoid outbreak. So people are wondering, with all of these problems facing California, why would they allocate funding towards the healthcare of illegal immigrants? It could be political reasons, I don't know. There was a critique in the New York Times recently from progressives saying that LA, even with a supermajority in the Democrats, could not solve the homeless crisis. Perhaps this is just platitudes and virtue signaling to make it seem like they're doing something when they're really not. So let's read the story, and then I want to talk about the concept of the California sanctuary state as it pertains to illegal immigration. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are multiple options: PayPal, crypto, and physical address. But of course, share this video if you think it should be shared, because YouTube has, as of May 1st, stopped suggesting content from independent creators for the most part. But let's get to the news. They say Governor Gavin Newsom, Democrat of California, signed a bill into law on Tuesday making young illegal immigrants eligible for the Medicaid program in California, making it the first state to offer such taxpayer-funded health benefits to low-income adults aged 25 and younger, regardless of their immigration status. State officials said they expected the plan to cover about 90,000 people and cost taxpayers $98 million. California already covered children 18 and younger, regardless of immigration status. The law will not give health insurance benefits to everyone 25 and younger, but only those whose income is low enough to qualify. Newsom and fellow Democrats in the state legislature said they plan to expand coverage to more adults in the years to come. Advocates of the measure have called it a way to improve the health of immigrants in the state by providing them with access to the medical care they need. Many immigrants in the country illegally already have been enrolled for some government-funded programs, but they covered only emergencies and pregnancies. Democrats had pushed to expand the coverage to even more adults, but Newsom rejected the proposals, saying it would cost about $3.4 billion to provide coverage to all California adults living in the country illegally. But he still has vowed to keep expanding coverage in future years. Now, there's an important point here. First, what will this cover? What will this be covering? When we think about the homeless problem in, San Francisco and Los Angeles, you need to recognize that mental illness is a big factor. Drug addiction and other addictions can result in people, essentially causing the problems California faces. It is possible there is a circuitous solution to these problems through what they're doing. If a lot of the people that are homeless and a lot of the people that are, kind of pooping in the streets or doing drugs are illegal immigrants, providing healthcare to all young people, period, may prevent an expansion of the homeless crisis. So I think that's an important point to make. On its surface, you will get a lot of people saying this is an insane policy, you can't do this, it makes no sense. There are good reasons to make that argument, and that's what I want to get into next. But I want to make sure I stress, oftentimes the solution to problems are counterintuitive. And when you have a lot of people who are homeless, we need to figure out why did they become homeless, because sometimes the solution isn't necessarily get the homeless and put them in a home. It's prevent further homelessness so that as time goes on, as we, house the homeless and deal with their mental health issues, we will not be increasing the number. Okay. It's kind of like before you try and figure out where the leak in your hose is, turn the water off, right? Otherwise, it's just going to keep coming. It's going to be harder to deal with. But there is a good reason to criticize this, and that is the California sanctuary state law. They will not allow local law enforcement to work with the feds to track down illegal immigrants. And this is where things become a bit untenable. While it may be that a solution to a lot of the problems with mental health, poverty, crime, etc., is to provide healthcare to people, when you incentivize illegal immigration and say we will not work with federal authorities to have you deported, you are going to have an influx of illegal immigrants. You are then going to have to pay for all of that healthcare as the number of illegal immigrants expands, and that can become untenable because more and more people will come because you've offered them free healthcare. There are a lot of people who know in the US, if you go to an emergency room, they have to treat you. And thus, there is some incentive to try and jump the border just to get to the emergency room if you've got some, appendicitis or something. Something that needs immediate treatment they'll have to take care of, taking advantage of our goodwill. But when California says we won't work with federal law enforcement, well, then you're going to have a massive influx of people, and that's what we're seeing. Some people are blaming Trump, saying that because Trump says he's going to put the border wall, people think now's my only chance. I disagree. While I can understand the sentiment, I believe that is a bit too circuitous when the simple solution is the Democrats are quite literally saying we will protect you and defend you and not deport you. Now they're saying we better go before the Republicans shut that down. The Democrats are holding the fence up, saying come on and hurry up before it shuts. Let's read a little bit about this from PolitiFact. So this is a bit of an old story, but because of the sanctuary state law being a bit older, I want to make sure I can separate, to the best of my ability, fact from fiction. Now I want to stress PolitiFact is actually a bit biased, plain and simple. But we'll read this, and I will give you my personal thoughts on what they claim and my views on how sanctuary states, will affect these bills. They write, "There's perhaps no more controversial or mischaracterized piece of recent legislation in California than the sanctuary state law. Critics describe it as lawlessness, an example of the Democratic-controlled state going rogue and preventing local law enforcement from cooperating with federal immigration agents to deport undocumented residents. The law, Senate Bill 54, and also known as the California Values Act, was signed last year by Democratic Governor Jerry Brown. Supporters say it was designed to encourage undocumented Californians to trust the police and report crimes in their neighborhoods, rather than viewing local law enforcement as an immigration force." So I want to stop here and say it's actually a good argument. It is. I don't think it gets to the deeper ramifications of what will come from this, but it is true that when it comes to car accidents, for instance, there is whether it's a legit problem or not, it's something that's often brought up. An illegal immigrant will get into an accident and then flee the scene because they're scared of being deported. Or crimes will persist because nobody wants to actually report them. The same is true in black market circumstances. If someone is selling pot, right, and they witness a serious crime, they're not going to report it because they were doing something illegal at the time. They don't want to get in trouble. They want to avoid police at all cost. It's one of the reasons I'm actually against, drug prohibition in general. Like legalize it, restrict it, control it. When you push it into black markets, that's when you breed crime and lawlessness because you have basically said anything you do in this matter is outside the law. So to stress, not a bad argument, but the problem is it will incentivize more illegal immigration, thus not actually solving the problem, expanding it. If you offer illegal immigrants healthcare, it's an incentive. Come here and we will give you healthcare if you're a certain age and have a certain income. If you say, don't worry, our cops won't work with ICE to deport you, people will feel it's a good opportunity to come. Now, the original problem you faced was that illegal immigrants aren't reporting crimes because they're scared of being deported. This bill may actually incentivize illegal immigrants to report crimes, but it simultaneously will increase the amount of illegal immigrants, thus increasing the problem of people who don't want to report crimes, and then you're going to spend money on their health care. Therein lies the deeper problem with the idea of sanctuary cities. What I see from many on the left is an emotional reaction, and here is the problem. I don't know what determines what the tribes are, left or right, conservative, liberal. All I know is that when it comes to solutions, I agree with many people on the left. The problem is we don't agree for the same reasons. Why should we have like a sanctuary city law? Well, they say there's a good reason, right? That you want illegal immigrants to report crimes. When you look at the nuance of an issue, sometimes the solutions are counterintuitive. Let's take a look at something like the minimum wage increase. I think in some circumstances it absolutely does make sense. Though I don't think a blanket federal $15 increase to $15 makes sense, I believe there are many circumstances where certain sectors and certain jurisdictions will need to increase a minimum wage. The problem with the left is they say money for everyone. Oh, hold on. We agree on where we want to get, but your proposal makes no sense. Okay? It's an emotional reaction, not a logical one. Take, for instance, something like universal health care. I am 100% in favor of taxpayer-funded, government, supplied universal health care. Hold on. I believe abolishing private insurance for everybody makes literally no sense, especially when people are happy with what they have. Thus, the more apt solution today is probably expanding a public option that people can buy into to create market pressure. If big businesses are forced to compete with lower cost government healthcare, perhaps that will cause a change. So I think we have to move in reform steps. So thus, when I see the left say something like, institute universal healthcare, period, it's like, okay, stop. I agree. But how do we get there? Sit down and talk with me. What we end up seeing now with these bills is them saying we can't have sick people. Well, hold on. We're expanding this to everybody, not just illegal immigrants, okay? So it is for Californian citizens too. But what are you going to do about the ever-expanding amount of illegal immigrants that are flooding the borders and are going to strain that system? Perhaps it should be healthcare benefits to everyone under 25 for citizens. Wouldn't that make more sense? But the emotional reaction is everyone deserves healthcare. It's a human right. Therefore, you expand your limited resources to everybody, and eventually you can't afford it anymore. New York is facing infrastructure crisis, budget crisis. It doesn't make sense to add an influx of more people when they can't support their transit system. The MTA in New York is failing. It's falling apart. It's collapsing. They're struggling to fix it. The L train, which connects Williamsburg, the hipster neighborhood, to Manhattan, is going to be shut down soon. And now they want to add more people saying, New York is for everybody. It's already pushed to its limit. You need to fix these things first, or otherwise nothing functions. In the end, I'll leave it there. I'm not going to do a big rant on, left versus right function, or whatever. The point is, I see holes in this plan. I see an emotional reaction where people want to do nice things for people, and I can respect it and understand it, but I think you're wrong, and we need to sit down and figure out how to actually solve these problems. So anyway, stick around, more segments to come, and I will see you all in a few minutes.